Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen. Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na ma tu'allimuna wa zidna bi fadlika ilman wa ta'aliman innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. Okay, so it says Babu ar-rajuli yakunu alayhi ad-daynu fayaqdi أفضل مما أخذه. So a man who has, this is simple things, really not really very complex, but somebody who owes money and he gives back better or more, right? So what does that even mean, better? You have to understand that basically in a world of gold and silver, right? Even notes, right? Like imagine you had like an old note. The guy gave you an old note and you gave him a nice new note, right? You gave him something better, right? But usually what we're talking about is something that's has a clear value. He lent you 800, you give him back 1,000. Is that halal? Right? So he says أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا حميد بن قيس المكي عن مجاهد. Right? So notice this chain, right? Imam Malik is Madani, is Medina. His chain is going through Mecca, Medina, going through Mecca. So it's actually what we find is that, for those of you right in the beginning of this class, we saw that it's kind of these three meta madhabs or proto madhabs for the Salaf. You had the Meccans, the Medinans, and the Kufans, right? And there are other things like the Damascans, the Basrans, right? But they're kind of smaller madhabs, right? So basically, today, two of those schools kind of exist, right? Two of those schools exist, which is the Medinans and the Kufans. So the Kufans, we call them Hanafis, and the Medinans are roughly the Shafi'is, Malikis, and Hanbalis, right? So there's a lot, like the significance of Madani fiqh and how Imam Malik looks at things, not Imam Malik himself, but Imam Malik and his teachers, right, is very much felt in the Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali schools, right? So, but what we see though is both schools, the Kufans and the Kufans and the Medinans, they're both tapping into the Meccan school as well, right? So as in their capacity as mujtahid imams, right? Imam Malik is not just looking at Medina, right? Imam Muhammad is not just looking at Kufa, saying, well, this is what our teachers say and that's it. They're looking at the fatwa of everybody, right? So if you look at, for example, the Musnad of Imam Abu Hanifa, he's narrating from the key muftis of all camps, right? Like he knows what they're saying. He knows their hadiths. He knows what's going on, but he's just, you know, um, he prefers the Kufan way more than anybody else, right? And sometimes, as we'll see, Imam Muhammad will shift, right? So the position of Imam Abu Hanifa and the Kufans is that alcoholic beverages, right, as long as they're not made out of grapes or dates, you can drink them, it's fine, right? You're not doing it, you're not getting drunk. There's nothing problematic it's just, you know, maybe you have this drink after you eat, makes you feel relaxed, helps you digest, but it's actually alcoholics, like 5-10% alcohol, right? That's totally fine, and that's famous from the Kufans, in fact, right? So we find that Imam Muhammad, after studying with Imam Malik, he actually changes his opinion. He's like, no, you can't do that. So he's privy to the evidence of the other camps that no, it's wrong. So Imam Abu Hanifa, his position is it's halal. Qadi Abu Yusuf, his student, Kufan as well, and Sufyan al-Thawri and all the Kufans, no problem with it, right? They used to say, if you see a Kufan who drinks nabidh, all right, he's drinking something that you could get drunk on, but he's not getting drunk. It's like, oh, it's fine. But if you see a Medini do that, like, oh, that's wrong. Because in Medina, then that's not the fatwa. But the Kufans, yeah, that was fine. Like you'd find Sahaba and Tabi'in, it's not an issue, right? So you do find sometimes they'll jump, they'll change, right? They kind of they're actually changing. Even you think about Imam Muhammad as well on the issue of lamps, right? Of touching the opposite sex. So the fatwa in Medina is that touching the opposite sex breaks your wudu with conditions. The fatwa of Kufa is kind of like that, but with more conditions, right? So if you study in the Hanafi fiqh, like how do you break wudu by touching the opposite sex is quite unique scenario, but essentially it is not the verse of the Quran, Ola Mastamunisat, does not mean intercourse for the Kufans or for the Medinans. For the Meccans, it does. Ibn Abbas is clear about that. Yeah, so Ola mastam nisa, if you touch women, it means intercourse, right? So that's the fatwa of Imam Muhammad. Imam Muhammad is the only way you could touch the opposite sex and break wudu. I mean, is when you have to make ghusl, right? If you actually have intercourse, right? So you see that they might jump around a little bit, but generally speaking, there's these they're aware of the other schools, but they're still part of their schools, right? So here, Imam Malik is clearly aware. He's many of his hadith are Meccan, right? Many of his hadith are Meccan, so he knows what's happening in Mecca. He knows what the fatwa are. He disagrees, right? He might strongly disagree sometimes. Or he knows what the Medinans are saying. He knows what the Kufans are saying. You know? So the idea that Imam Malik didn't know this hadith or didn't know that fatwa is a load of nonsense. Right? That's not what's happening. Right? The default is they are aware and they are acting contrary to what is obvious to you. So today we're like, oh, but the hadith says this, just go roll with the hadith. Most likely the scholar that you're disagreeing with knows the hadith and knows more information. Right? Have you seen this car that's being sold for this price? Yes. Why don't you buy it? It's so cheap. Well, think about it. And you're like, huh? I don't get it. I'll buy it. And then you buy like, oh, dude, why did I buy that car? Right? So just the fact that something seems a good idea, right, doesn't mean it's actually right. So the default is a mujtahid. They see what you see and more. So you fall for the obvious conclusion, but they go to something that's less obvious. And you look at them like scratching your head, like, why did they say that? Imam Shafi does that a lot. Imam Shafi does that a lot, where the hadith says one thing and he goes against it. And he's like, why? I thought you just follow Sahih hadith. Not really, because he sees other information that you don't see, right? Or you'll even see that in his process. Originally, he followed the outward purport of the hadith and then he went against it. And they're like, oh, what extra information does he have? Right? What extra information does he have? Khair. So, the idea that, oh, it's just they didn't know, that's why they disagreed, right? That simple argument. People didn't know about hadiths and these things. We know about it, so therefore it's easy, right? It's not like that. It's that they knew what we know and more. That's why, and therefore they disagreed. And that disagreement is fine, right? As opposed to they didn't know. So in Malik, he narrates from Humayd ibn Qais al-Makki, so in Mecca, from another school, from Mujahid, who is proper, who is, he's kind of in between. He's also a student of Ibn Umar. So Mujahid is a student of Ibn Umar who is in Mecca, and a student of Ibn Abbas who is in Medina. A student of Ibn Umar who is in Medina, and a student of Ibn Abbas who is in Mecca. إذ قال استسلف عبد الله بن عمر من رجل دراهم. Right? Abdullah ibn Umar borrowed some dirhams from a man. ثم قضى خيرا منها, and then he paid him back better than that, i.e. in quality, meaning the gold was better quality, the print, not scratched up, whatever it is, or he gave him more. فقال الرجل هذه خير من دراهمي التي أسلفتك. Right? قال ابن عمر قد علمت ولكن ولكن نفسي بذلك طيبة. He says, I know, but I'm happy to do that. So as long as you don't stipulate that, that's fine. Right? As long as you don't stipulate that, that's fine. Right? You can give back better notes, you can give back more money, that's totally fine. It's sunnah to do that. If you stipulate it, that is haram. Right? Okay. Okay, so then he says, next one he says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا زيد بن أسلم عن عطاء بن يسار. So this is عطاء مدني. عطاء بن أبي رباح مكي. عطاء بن يسار مدني. Okay. عن أبي رافع أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم استسلف من رجل بكرا. Right. He borrowed a young camel. So you can borrow money and pay back the value, or you can borrow a thing and give back that thing, right? And similarly, you could, providing that it is generic enough, you could borrow a thing and give back the likes, right? So there's things that have a like, it's called mithli, and things that are not mithli, right? So here's a bag of rice. Okay, what kind of rice is this? Basmati rice. Okay, can you give back basmati rice? Yeah. So I don't have to give this bag back. I'm going to use this rice up, and I'm going to buy you another 5 kilos of basmati rice. Same quality, same thing, right? I can give that. I can borrow rice, borrow money, borrow an animal if it's replaceable, right? But if it's not replaceable, it's something unique, you couldn't do that, right? That's called, so one thing is called qard, that's called borrowing, as in borrowing money. The other one is called ariya, which is borrowing a thing. Like, hey, can I use your house for the weekend? Right? So you don't give back them an equivalent, you give them back the house, right? Do you mind if I borrow your car for 2 minutes? You just need to go down the street and come back, right? That's called ariya. I'm giving you this car and I'm giving you the car back, right? So these are two different things, right? One is you owe the equivalent, and the other one is you owe the thing back itself, right? فقدمت عليه إبل من الصدقة فأمر أبا رافع أن يقضي الرجل بكره, right? And so then some charity came, some camels were given as charity, and he ordered Abu Rafi' to pay that man back his camel that he had borrowed, i.e. the worth of it. Give me a camel that's like it. فرجع إليه أبو رافع فقال لم أجد فيها إلا جملا رباعيا خيارا. Right? He said, I couldn't find something like that. It was a young camel. I can only find an old, camel that's worth much more. فقال أعطيه إياه. Said, give it to him. فإن خيار الناس أحسنهم قضاء. Because the best of people are those who pay back debts in the best way. Okay? Um, so that's what you should do. Somebody lends you money, you give them back more. Somebody gives you something, you give it something back nice. You borrow someone's plate from them, you give it back. Say, hey, can I borrow a pot? I have some people coming over on the weekend. Sure. And you give them back the pot with food in it, right? That's totally fine. فإن خيار الناس أحسنهم قضاء. Those who pay back in the best way. قال محمد. So Imam Muhammad says, وبقول ابن عمر نأخذ لا بأس بذلك إذا كان من غير شرط اشترط عليه وهو قول أبي حنيفة. It says, fine, we adopt this position, right? Not a problem. And as long as you don't stipulate that. If you stipulate that, it becomes haram, right? It's become riba, right? I'm going to lend you this pot on the condition you give me back this pot plus something else. Now that's something else then. So what's that called? If I lent you a pot on the condition you bring the pot back with some cooked rice in it, what's that called?
Riba.
It's not. It's not riba. It's something else. Yeah, what about this? You went to a car rental and they said, I'll give you this car and you bring the car back in 2 days on the condition you also give me $300. Is that called riba? What do you call that?
Rental.
Rental. So what is riba? Riba is renting out money. So you can rent out anything, but you can't rent out money. So that's what they do, right? And the logic is, look at inflation, bro. I'm going to give you $1 million now, okay? You're going to be able to use it, and I won't be able to use it. So I can't invest it and make money out of it, and you can. So what's the big deal, right? What's the big deal? Like, I'm just renting money out to you. That's what they do, right? They rent money out to you, so you pay back, right? If I give you money to buy a house today, and you're going to pay me back in 30 years, is $1 million now the same as $1 million in 30 years? No. Okay. So you have benefited from having the money now and not in 30 years. And so that's what they do with so that's their logic, right? إنما البيع مثل الربا. They say the same thing. There's no difference. Renting out money and renting out a pot, renting out a car is the same thing, but they're not. So you can rent out a pot, right? You can say, here's a pot, and I want the same pot back in 2 days, but you got to give me some money. That's called renting out. Okay? Called renting something else. It's not a loan anymore, right? But what you can't do is do something like this. I'm going to give you a pot and I want a pot like it plus more money. That's called riba now. Do you see the difference? What is, I'm going to give you this pot and you're going to use this pot for 2 days. And when you return it, I need $10. It's fine. But I'm going to give you a pot, and you're going to give me a pot like it plus $10. That's called riba. That's called borrowing, meaning because I gave you the likes of it, not the thing itself. I give you the likes of it plus more money. That make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Wait, can you clarify that one more time, actually? So if you're returning the exact pot, but you're paying for it, that'd be similar to like a rental service. But
Exactly.
is
But if
it
you
that
but if you said I'm going to borrow, for example, I'm going to borrow glass. Let's say, for example, some IKEA glasses. I need 500 IKEA glasses. I said, bro, I've just bought them right now. You need them
right?
for wedding? Sure, you need them. Okay, Habibi, look, just buy me some more, right? You can deliver it to my house next week, but hey, give me this money as well. Hang on a minute. That means you just borrowed something and paid more. You know what I'm saying? So that's called
Oh,
riba,
okay. Yeah.
right? Now, what I could do is something else. I'd be like, hey, what if I just sell you the glasses? Like, yeah, that's fine. So, so you need the glasses right now. Your wedding is in 2 hours. There's no way you're going to get these glasses. You're like, bro, I need them. The guy didn't deliver. I was like, sure. These glasses that I just bought from 500 glasses from IKEA. Okay, I bought them for $200. I will sell them to you for $400. That's totally fine. So now I'm going to go and buy my own. But there's a difference between lending something and getting something more versus selling something or renting it out. It's not the same, right? And it
Mm.
changes the nature of the relationship. Similarly, the changing the ratio, if I lend you something or if I rent it out to you, it changes your liability. So you said, "Hey, free, can I just borrow your car for like 2 minutes? Just need to like get to the end of the road and back. I need to do something." Sure. So you go and you scratch my car. You got to pay for damages. But if you pay me $1 for it, or 1 cent. I say I will rent my car to you for 5 minutes for 1 cent. Sure, you're not liable for damages anymore, unless you drove over the speed limit, you did something I told you not to do, right? You put an elephant on the roof and like, bro, why'd you do that, right? You put like 10 kids on top of the car, like, why'd you do? But normal use, car damage, not responsible. Right? In a rental contract, you're not responsible for normal use of the house, normal use of the car. I was driving a normal thing and subhanAllah, someone crashed into me. It's not my fault, right? Normal use, I'm not responsible. But if you borrow, you're liable for damages. So every single relationship is different. Did you give it to me? Did you lend it to me? Did you lend it meaning to give back the equivalent, right? Or did you rent it to me? Different relationship each time, right? So this is really important. I remember, one sheikh talking about this. He was like, Islamic finance, it's all the same, Islamic finance on a car and it's all the same, right? And he's like, okay, let's look at two scenarios. They're all the same. Here is a woman, and here is a man, and here's a woman, and here's a man, right? Here's a woman's ovaries, and here's a man's sperm, and here's a woman's ovaries, and here's a man's sperm. It's all the same, right? She's pregnant, she's pregnant. It's not the same. There was one word. I hereby marry myself to you. I hereby accept them. So 3 second conversation that changes the nature of the whole relationship. This is now this, there's all these things that are different. So sometimes you can look at things and be like, yeah, dude, that's no different. It's all the same. It's not though, right? That's why we need like, in law and in Sharia, Islamic law, there's sometimes one little shift and changes what's happening, change the nature of what's going on, right? And it seems very, very similar. It's like not a big deal, right? But it is a big deal. You lent me gold, or did you lend me? I paid cash for gold, or I paid what you. So let's say, for example, I want to lend you money, and I want you to pay me back with inflation. Haram. I want to lend you gold, and you got to give me back gold, even if it costs more. Yeah, it's totally fine, right? So you want to lend somebody money and protect yourself against inflation? Okay, give them gold. Here's gold bullion. They're gonna have to give you back gold bullion in 20 years. Okay. You won't lose any money because of inflation. That's not a problem. But you can't do that with cash. can't say I'm going to give you 1 million and then, you got to pay me back according to inflation. You can't do that, right? So it's important to, these subtle differences. Which category are we in? It is important, right? And the Shafi'is, they take it to the extent of even language. They're like, if you said things like, I hereby sell you this car for 2 weeks, invalid contract. Okay, why? They're like, what's wrong with that? Like, when I sold you the car for 2 weeks, that means I'm renting it out to you, right? Shafi says you can't do that because a sale is one thing and rental is something else. You can't. So they're actually very picky about language as well. Like, which category are you putting this into, right? You can't use the word sale when it's not a sale. Can't use it. Um, uh, like even renting for life is not the same as sale. They're not quite the same. There's a difference. So like they're quite pedantic, right? For real reasons because pedanticism has a place, right? There are differences. Are you applying for this? Are you applying for that? Are you in this category or that category? They're not the same, right? So that makes sense. Okay, so it says as long as you don't stipulate it, it's totally fine. Okay, what if it's emotionally stipulated, right? Like whenever I borrow from Salah, he always expects me to pay him back more. Like that's how it works. Like I've known him for 10 years. He's like, bro, I turn up at his shop and say, hey, how's it going, Salah? How's business? Do you have any cash on you? So yeah, I got cash on me. Right? Same, like he and we both have the same thing in our head. Right? Last time he gave me $1,000, I gave him back 1,100 in a week. That's how it works. Right? And whenever I don't do that, next time he always tells me, "Oh, I don't have any cash on me." Like, so I know what he's saying and he knows what I'm saying, right? It's understood. It's understood that we're going to do, I'm going to give him back more. That's haram. So either culturally, like that's how it works in our culture, that would be haram, or personally, he and I have this relationship that whenever he lends me money, it's always expected and understood that I'll give him back more. That is also haram, right? As opposed to culturally, that's not expected. Personally, it's not expected. Khalas, and just gave him back more. That's fine, right? And even if it motivated him to do that, right? He's like more likely because he knows that last time I did that. That doesn't matter, right? But the point is, as long as it's not stipulated verbally, it's not stipulated. That's not the context that he and I work with. That's not the culture that it works in society. That's fine. Okay. It's clear to everybody. What would be current day? What would current day release be? I don't know what that is. What is current day release?
Maybe like a car lease. I don't know. Like you lease it for 3 years. It's a contract. I'm using this car for 3 years, and that's it.
Is that what it is, Ashar? Is that what you mean by current day release?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Um, Similarly, you can do things like, okay, for example, I'm gonna rent the house to you, and it says in the contract we're gonna review the lease every year. You know, so after a year, I say, look, prices have gone up. It's not, this place is more. People are coming to this area now, so I want to increase the rent. You can do that, right? He's not bound to continue the lease but you can do things like that.
What about open-ended terms like, oh, at any point we can re-review or renegotiate? I mean,
Yeah, that's fine. So
lease
basically,
agreement,
it's
like,
not that's basically non-contractual in that area, basically.
okay,
So like my lease on my house right now, it says that it's a 2-year lease, but either of us can give 3 months notice, right? So then it's like, oh well, so is it 2 years or is it not? Like, well, it says that either of us can give 3 months notice, so that's what it is, right? So basically, it could just stop. Like he could stop it in any day. He can call me and say, hey, 3 months, you gotta leave, and I can do the same thing with him, it's fine. Um, okay. So he says, قال محمد وبهذا so sorry. And then he says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا نافع عن ابن عمر. Right. So this is proper Madani. Right. This is the golden chain of Medina. Right. Malik from Nafi from Ibn Umar. قال من أسلف سلفا فلا يشترط إلا قضاءه. Right? So whoever lends some money, then he should not stipulate anything other than the thing has to be paid back. That's all. Right? So now the question is, what about time? What about time? So we have an issue in the Shafi school where if you stipulated time, it could actually turn into riba. Okay? So may Allah protect us all, and my brother specifically. He's in Kuwait right now. So I'm in Kuwait with Salah. Okay, I'm picking on Salah because your name comes up right now, maybe how Zoom comes up. Okay, so I'm in Kuwait with Salah. I have gold bullion. Okay, and Kuwait is being bombed. Okay, Kuwait is being bombed. May Allah protect Kuwait. Okay, so I'm like, dude, I'm gonna lose my money. I'm in a war zone. So what I do is I say, hey Salah, you want to borrow some money? He's like, yeah, sure. I will lend you gold bullion, right? This weight. Here is this gold, this weight of gold bullion, right? This is the whatever it is, if it's 100 carat gold, whatever it is, he knows exactly what it is. And I'm give it to him. I say, but you can't pay me back before 5 years. Why am I stipulating that? Why did I make that stipulation?
But wartime affects the value of gold.
Possibly. But what else? A practical thing. I'm in a country. I might have to leave tomorrow morning. I might have to leave today, or I might not leave. Right? Could the gold get stolen?
Yeah.
Could it get exploded to pieces? So all I'm trying to
Inshallah
do,
not.
may Allah protect us, right? But what I'm trying to do is basically cover my back. So what I'm doing is I'm lending him money, and we stipulate a time in a way that I benefit. That basically I can't be liable. So in a normal loan is like this. He says, "Hey bro, I need 100K." It's like, "Here's 100K." And then he says, "Hey, I paid you back." I'm like, "Okay." Then he says, "Hey, Fareed, can I have another 100K?" I say, "Here's 100K." Then he pays me back. You can pay back money whenever you want, right? You can pay back whenever you want. And so now when I stipulate that you can't pay me back before 5 years, okay, I've basically put it in a situation where I'm benefiting from this. So in the Shafi school, we actually consider that to be riba. So in the Shafi school, if you stipulated a time, it's either null, meaning that's meaningless, or it actually could actually be riba if one side is going to benefit, right? One side is going to benefit from that. So that in that scenario, that you lent and money a time where there was pillage, when there was a time of war or something like that, and you did it just so that the other person basically would always be liable for that money. He couldn't give it back to you. So even if he had it, he spent it and then got the money back. He came to you like, "Hey, I have the gold for you," and you're like, "No, no, no, I still don't want it. You still can't give it to me," right? That would actually be a riba. So for the majority of scholars, in the majority of scenarios, stipulating a time is null. It is not haram. It's not riba. It meaning that stipulation doesn't mean anything. So what does that mean? I go to Salah and say, "Hey, bro, I'm starting a company. I'm trying to borrow some money from some people. I need 50K. Um, can you lend that to me?" And he says, "Sure." So what's the timeline? 2 years. Okay, so I'm borrowing 50K. Here's my witnesses for 2 years. Da, 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 here's the date. Da, 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 da. Everything's written down. The next day he says, "I want my money back." I'm like, "Habibi, you just lent it to me, right? For 2 years." I say, "Yeah, I know." So now qada, and he can take me to court right now. So I have the document. I'm like, "Your Honor, it says 2 years." The judge will does not is not interested in the date. He's not interested in that. He's interested, is it true? Do you accept that Salah lent you 50K? I say, yeah, I do. But we agreed that it's for 2 years and he's asking for it right now. So that's fine. You have to give it to him right now. So if you have the cash, you got to give it to him. If you have the assets, you have to sell them. Right? That's how it is. That's the position of the majority of scholars. Right? The majority of scholars is that you can, if you stipulate a time, that time does not have to be honored by either party. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, according to the Malikis have this concept in usul al-fiqh, not in the usul al-fiqh, in the mu'amalat maliyah, in the financial contracts, is that a promise is binding, right? A promise is binding. So in the Maliki school, for example, if you tell somebody, hey, I really want to get married, but you can't afford it, like how much does it cost in your country to get married? Say X amount. Dude, go ahead, get married. I'll pay for everything. Just whenever the bills come in, you tell me. So now he goes and gets married, and then you call him up, say, hey, can you send me the money? He's like, oh, sorry. So in the Maliki school, he's bound to do that. In a financial contract, whenever you, it's called al-wa'd and mulzim in the Maliki school. It's a promise that is binding, right? So it's a basically like, hey, pick me up from the airport, right? And I arrived, I don't have any cash, I don't have a card, I can't get Uber, and like you said you're gonna pick me up, right? You said I was gonna stay the night. You can stay at my house for like 2 weeks, and now I have to stay in a hotel. Like, bro, Habibi, you told me that I can come and stay. Now I have to pay for a hotel. I'm in, in New York. Like, I did not expect to stay in a hotel in New York for like 2 weeks. That's expensive. I can't do that, right? So they call that in the Maliki school, it's called al-wa'd al-mulzim. If you promise somebody on something that there are financial repercussions on it, you're bound to that. So they have the same thing here, right? They have the same thing here that you say, hey, I want to borrow the money and I'll pay you back in 2 years. You cannot ask before that, right? They cannot ask before that in the Maliki school. But for everybody else, you can. It is not binding. On either side, it's just kind of a null, is a void condition, right? That money could be requested beforehand. Okay. As opposed to a debt that is a product of a sale. That's different. So I say, Salah, listen, I need to buy a new car. He said, I have a car for sale. I don't have the cash though. So fine, just pay me in installments over 2 years. So that's different, right? So I'm buying the car in installments is different to borrowing the money. Borrowing the money, you cannot, for the majority of scholars, that the timeline is meaningless. You can request it beforehand, whether you stipulate it or not. But with a car, with payments on something that it was a sale, and you agreed, I'm buying this item and I'm selling it. I'm going to pay you the whole amount within 3 years, or on these dates. You have to keep to that. Right? That's something else. Okay, so anyway, here we're talking about stipulating something, which is all you can stipulate is that the money be paid back. That's all. قال محمد وبهذا نأخذ لا ينبغي له أن يشترط أفضل منه ولا يشترط عليه أحسن منه فإن الشرط في هذا لا ينبغي وهو قول أبي حنيفة والعامة من فقهائنا. So he says, this is what we hold, that will be haram, you shouldn't do that, and that's our position. So now here's the question. I borrowed $10 from Salah and I stipulate, he said, on the condition you give me back 11. Agreed? Agreed. Done. How do we describe this contract? So we all agree that that is haram. But is it valid or not? So the Hanafis, they have this concept, is that they look at a prohibition, okay? And they say, can we separate the prohibition from the contract? Right? So for example, murder. Can you separate the sin of murdering somebody from murder? Like, is it like you're forbidding the person the way that they're murdered or something like that? Like, or is it just like forbidding murder is forbidding murder? It's like the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So you can't separate the two things. As opposed to Allah has allowed you to lend money, but has forbidden you to ask for more. So the loan is fine and valid, and you can use the money. It's not a problem. But the condition is haram. Does that make sense? So that's how they see it. They call it act fasid. They don't call it batil. Batil is it didn't happen. The contract did not happen, right? Whereas they say the contract happened, right? You borrowed $10, it's your $10. Go ahead and use it. But what is haram is you cannot give that money back. You cannot, you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to give that extra money back, right? And so if you end up doing it, you've done something sinful, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, everyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Muhammad Azhar, yeah. So the
Yes.
majority of scholars say that contract didn't happen. If you stipulated if you stipulated interest, the contract didn't happen, right? That's that's like you married two sisters at one go, right? There's a man, he married his two, he says, I hereby marry you my two daughters, so and so and so and so, and you hereby accept. Khalas, not a contract. You can't marry two daughters, right? It doesn't happen. So you're not married to either, right? The Hanafis, they would view this contract like you married Zainab, and then the father married Zainab to you, and then you tried to marry her sister. So now the father says, I hereby marry you my daughter so and so. And he said, I hereby accept. So that's void because so the first contract happened, the second one didn't, because you can't marry two sisters. Right? That's how they see it. Like the first one counts, the second one didn't. So they see it as two things. It's a loan, which is halal and valid, and a condition which is haram and invalid. It's not binding, number one, and it's not halal to fulfill that. Can't do that. Right? So they see it as two separate things. Whereas for the majority of scholars, they say this is just not a contract to begin with. You can't even do that. Like you can't do it, and it doesn't count. So the money's not yours. Right? You didn't borrow any money. If that makes sense. Everyone's following me?
Yes.
All right. So now you get a credit card. Okay. And you get a credit card or an interest loan. Okay. They gave you 15K business loan, whatever it is. And the APR is whatever, 25%. Okay. So now you use that credit card. So you now borrowed the money. Does that count in the Hanafi school? Counts. You bought things, you know. But you're not allowed to pay the interest. And if you pay the interest, it's haram. Does that make sense? So the Hanafis, because of the way they see it as two different things, it's much more flexible, right? Whereas for the Shafi'is, like that's not you can't you, like you couldn't use that credit card to begin with. You can't do that, right? Or you couldn't get that loan to begin with. It's not, no, it means you didn't like that money's not yours, basically. You can't do that. Right? Whereas for the Hanafis, yeah, the money's yours. Go ahead. They've lent you. Here's your credit line. It's $10,000, and you can use $10,000. Okay, now here's your APR, and you're paying interest. It's like just don't pay them that money. Say, well, how much was? So then the practical thing then is for a Hanafi, like, oh, I have a credit card and I'm paying interest. Like, oh, um, but you're not allowed to, yeah. So the sin is paying the interest, not the contract, not the loan itself. That's the point. They're two separate things. Okay? Everyone's following?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so it says باب ما يكره من قطع الدراهم والدنانير. So here we're talking about something very, very different. Okay, here we're talking about minted coins. So minting money is a financial thing and it is a political thing. Okay? It's a financial thing and it is a political thing. So when you found, for example, I think the Umayyads minted money. I'm pretty sure they minted money, but certainly the Abbasids did, right? There is a coin that we have today, right? On one side of it, it says La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and the other one it says something something King Offa, King of Mercia, right? So who was that? That was a king, like England wasn't a country yet. Basically, there was a king of one area of England. So on one side, it has King Offa of northwest England, and the other side is this minted La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah as Abbasid minted gold, right? So that's a political thing, right? It's a political thing, right? So you can imagine what's happening at that time is England siding with the Muslims against the rest of or whatever it is. There's certain political things happening, right? When we say forget, we're no, we're not dealing with petrol in dollars anymore, only in ruble, right? That's a political thing, right? So destroying, I'm pretty sure in America, you can Google it, right? If I sat at home like shredding dollars, right? That's a crime. It's a crime, correct? Like you can't do that. You can give it away. You can give the money to whoever you want, but you cannot cut the piece of paper out. Can't cut minted money or printed cash, right? Is that correct? Where's Siri? Is it legal to destroy dollars? It is illegal to destroy or deface US coins and currency if the intent is to render them unfit for circulation, right? That's so then here you got some other exceptions there, right? So you can see what this is the question here, right? So it's not really the same issue, right? And then again, why is it relevant? Because when you're dealing with, right? Remember in the past, people used to deal with cash much more, right? And you go to the supermarket, you go to the store, and you have a $50 note. You're like, oh man, I don't want to break it. Remember that phrase? "Oh, I got a $50. I don't want to break it, right? So it affects the way people buy and sell, right? So you cannot rip a $50 note in half and give it to somebody, can you? So here's 25. It doesn't work like that. So the same thing with gold bullion or a gold dinar. Like, oh, I'm going to give you half of a dinar, so I'm literally going to cut this in half. You can't do that for a number of reasons, right? So he says here, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا يحيى بن سعيد. Right? This is the Mufti of Medina. And Sa'id al-Musayyab. This is again the Mufti of Medina before him. This is the son-in-law of Abu Hurairah. أنه قال قطع الورق. So you can call it al-warq with a sukoon on the ra or al-wariq with a kasra on the ra. وَالذهب من الفساد في الأرض. This is corruption. You can't do that. There's minted gold or silver coins. You can't break it up like that. You can't do that. Right? قال محمد لا ينبغي قطع الدراهم والدنانير لغير منفعة unless there's some reason. For example, I have my own gold. What I can't make jewelry out of my own gold. I have gold coins and silver. Can I not melt it down and make my own jewelry? Why not? Right? Or I'm going to if I have silver bullion, right? Is that illegal to like I have these little, I don't know, 1 ounce silver sticks and I want to melt them all down and make a 12-ounce thing. Like can I not do that? With a company or something like that, like legally, is that, if I go through the proper, is that okay? It's fine, right? But otherwise just destroying minted money, you can't do it. So there's another issue here. Khair. Is everyone still awake? Salah, I think it's what, 11:30 where you are?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Good response. Azhar, you're in India, and Muhammad Sabir, he's still my time.
Yeah, India.
Alhamdulillah.
It's morning.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So باب المعاملة والمزارعة في النخل والأرض. Right? So now we're going to another issue, which is uh, what's the phrase? Um, what I'm going to say? Now we're looking at sharecropping, right? So sharecropping, most of us are not going to be involved in sharecropping, but we are going to be involved in mudaraba. So what's the difference? Sharecropping is I have a piece of land, okay, and I'm going to let you use it, and you're going to work on it, okay? You're going to work on it, and I'm going to give you a percentage of the produce, okay? You're not going to rent it from me. So I'm not going to hire you to work on my land, nor are you going to rent the land from me. Okay, that would be a rental contract. Rather, what's going to happen is I'm going to let you use it and you are going to work on it and the produce will come and you'll get a percentage. Okay, that's called sharecropping. That's problematic for certain reasons that I was mentioning in a second. But the type of sharecropping that we will do is with cash. So Azhar, mashallah, he has a lot of money. Okay, he has a lot of money. The issue is he has no experience in education. So he's going to say, Muhammad Sabir, I want you to come to my area in India and I need you to set up 5 schools. I have all the money to do that. I will build the schools, right? I will do this, do this, but I need you to manage it. Okay. So Muhammad Sabir is going to come in. He's going to do all the work. Okay. And he's not going to get a salary. Okay. Rather, he's going to get a cut of the profits. Okay. So that's the same thing, right? One person puts in the money and the other person puts in the work. Okay. That's called mudaraba or qirad. It's called qirad or it's called mudaraba. Mudaraba. So people will do this in business. And also when you go to an Islamic bank, that's how it will work. Like how do you get interest from your savings in an interest bank in an Islamic bank through Mudaraba? So you go in, here's Bank Rajihi, here's bank, whatever it is, some bank that you have. You go in, you put $100,000 in, and then it says estimated profits. It doesn't say interest. Estimated profits is 4%. So what they will do is they will take your money, okay, and they will invest it. And from the profits, they will take 50%, you take 50%. And their estimation, not their promise, is that you will be making 4%. So each year you'll be making at least $4,000, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. Now,
But that's
obviously,
different from high yield savings, where they promise you like, oh, you're
exactly.
guaranteed 5% return.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's two things I could do. Number one, I say, listen, put in a minimum of 50K. If you put in a minimum of 50K, we will give you 5.6%. That's it. Done. Okay, that's interest. Or I say, hey, Habibi, I'm opening a restaurant. Okay, I need money. So like, sure. I can guarantee if you lend me 100K, I'll give you at least 110K. But so you can either get 110K or you get 110K or 15%, whichever is the highest. That's also haram. So many Muslims will do that, unfortunately. So they say invest, but they're like, hey, how do I know I'm going to get my money back? So I guarantee. As soon as you say I guarantee, it's become interest. Because now you're lending me money and guaranteeing that you get back 10%. It's haram. But if you said, hey, you might lose all your money, just like I might lose all my work. I worked 2 years for nothing. Didn't do anything. It was like came out in debt. That's it. Right? You put in 100K and you lost it all. Okay? It's called investment, Habibi. You can come back with 100% profit. So after 2 years, you got $200,000, or you come back with zero, like you've lost everything. That's called investment, right? But what you cannot do is you say, "Oh, I guarantee that you're going to get your money back," right? At least I'm going to get your money back. You can't do that. If you want to do that, that's called a loan, right? So you can either loan the money or invest the money, right? But you can't do both. You can't loan and guarantee the amount that I'm going to get back plus possibly up to 10%. You can't do that. It's haram. The loss has to be shared, yeah. But the thing is, there's no sharing because I didn't put any money in. So I was working on the restaurant for 2 years. You put in the money. Okay, I lost it all. So I lost my 2 years of work. You lost all your money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. As opposed to an investment, Azhar and we start up an Arabic school in India. I put in 50K, he puts in 50K, I work, he works. That's called a sharika. It's a different relationship. That's called an, right? That's called a partnership. So I work, he works, I put in money, he put in money. We agreed it's going to be this ratio because he's local, he's going to do way more work. I'm going to only visit once a year. So he's going to say, listen, I want 70% of the profits. Like, okay, fine. Right. So you can't do that in the Shafi school. If you put in the same amount, it has to be the same shares, but you can do that in Hanafi school, right? So given that you're local, given that you're going to be doing more work, given this, I'll give you 80% actually of the profits. Don't worry about it. You know, I'll take 20% of the profits, you take 80% of the profits. That's fine, right? But we're both working and we're both investing. So could both make profits and both make losses, as opposed to mudaraba. So the bank, for example, the bank took my $100,000, I put it in an Islamic savings account, and I come back 4 years later and it's empty. I'm like, what on earth did you do with my money? We lost it all. That can happen, right? It's an investment. We invested and we lost all the money. So they lost their work, right? The investors didn't get any money. The bank didn't get any money, and they did all that work for nothing. And you lost your money. There we go. So that's the hadith is what? Al-ghunmu bil-ghurmi. Al-ghunmu bil-ghurmi. That the luxury of making money goes with the problem of making losses. So you only make money if you put your neck on the line. But what the interest bank will do is I don't care. The interest bank says, I lent you money, I didn't buy the house for you. Right? So interest bank, this is what they're going to do. Say, Azhar, do you want a house? Sure. Here's $200,000. Give us back $200,000. If you don't have it, if you buy the wrong house, if there's a problem with the house, a problem with the bit, I don't care. I'm not interested. I can't lose out. You have to give me back my $200,000 plus interest. That's just it. Right? As opposed to invest in something else. Even an Islamic bank. So Azhar comes up to me and says, listen, I need to buy this house for $200,000. So now the Islamic bank looks at the house that Azhar wants, okay, and says, is it worth $200,000? Judges whether it's worth buying, okay, sells it to Azhar at $300,000, okay, and makes the house collateral against the loan. Azhar turns around and says, Mr. Bank, say yes, there's a major problem with the foundation of this house. I'm like, what is it? So A, B, and C. They send in the specialists. Subhanallah, this house is actually illegal to live in, and I get sued for selling it, and I lost out. The house is worth $10,000, not $200,000. So the bank invested in a house to sell. They could have made 50% profit. In reality, they made whatever, huge losses, because it's an investment, right? So you can see that's why an Islamic bank, when they give you an Islamic mortgage, they're going to charge you more because they have more risk, whereas the bank does not have much risk, right? Also, the bank lends you 10 times more money than they actually have, as far as I know, right? That bank will lend you money that they don't even have. As far as I understand, that's how the system. They can lend you 10 times the amount of money that they actually even have, right? So they gave you a credit line of $10,000. They only have to have $1,000 in order to lend you that money, right? Whereas the bank cannot buy a house from somebody without paying them the money, right? They're actually gonna, here's the money. So it's actually like managing an Islamic bank is quite risky and has lots of problems, right? It's not as easy and convenient as an interest bank. Does it make sense, inshallah?
Yes.
Right. So similarly, for example, I buy this agricultural area, this huge agricultural area in India, and I give it to 20 people. Each of them are, they're doing this sharecropping, and there's a crop failure, right? So I agreed, for example, 30%. I get 30% of the crops, and they get 70%. And I basically spent all this money for nothing because I didn't get anything. So yeah, I lost out. Like I was trying to make money out of my property and didn't make any money out of my property, right? But I lost with them or I gained with them. Right? Okay, so that's called. So it says here. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ربيعة بن أبي عبد الرحمن أن حنظلة الأنصارية أخبره أنه سأل را رافع بن خديج عن كراء المزارع فقال قد نهي عنه قال حنظلة فقلت لرافع بالذهب ورق قال لا بأس بكرائها بالذهب والورق. Okay, so here this hadith I believe is in Bukhari and Muslim, right? So as we know, Imam Malik is a teacher of the teacher of Bukhari and Muslim. So this hadith is a very famous hadith, and what it says, the outward purport of this hadith is that sharecropping is forbidden. Because he asked, so this was, who was it? He asked Rafi and Khadij, he said, can you do can you do can a muzari' can he rent like that? Meaning I'm going to rent for a portion of the crops, right? I will give you the landlord a portion of the crops. Can we do a fixed portion of the crops? Is that okay? So قَدْ نُهِيَ عَنْهُ, that has been forbidden, i.e. by the Prophet ﷺ. So Hamdallah then said, but Rafi', okay, what about giving gold and silver? He said, that's fine. Okay? لا بأس بكرائها بالذهب والورق. Okay? So we have three types of contracts here. Three types of contracts. Number one, you have a piece of land, agricultural area. I will work on your agricultural land and I will give you 30% of the crops. Okay? That's contract number one. That's called muzara'. Contract number two, I will work on your you give me your land, let me work on it, and I will give you X amount of crops that normally come from your land. Okay? I didn't give you a percentage. I said, let me work on your land for the next 9 months, which is the time that we usually use it, and I promise to give you X amount of potatoes or X amount of wheat. Okay? That's contract number two. Contract number three, let me work on your land, right, for X amount of time, and I will give you X amount of money, right? And I'll pay you at this date. That's fine. Does that make sense? So three contracts. Contract number one, I will give you a percentage of the crops that come from the land that you're giving me. Contract number two, I will give you X amount of crops from the land or from somewhere else. Contract number three, I'll give you cash. So here he asked gold and silver. He said, it's fine, not a problem. Why is that not a problem? You are giving me something that is known and clear, okay? And I'm paying you something that's known and clear. Are there any ifs and buts in the contract? No. If there's a crop failure, I still pay you. If there's no crop failure, I still pay you. If I make money, I pay you. If I don't make money, I pay you. It's all the same. We understand you're giving me this use of the land. I'm giving you this money. It's clear. Okay? The second contract is also clear. There's no ifs or buts. If I work hard, okay, if I work hard, I'm going to pay you X amount of potatoes. If I don't work hard, I'm going to pay you X amount of potatoes. If there's a crop failure, if there's no, if the market goes up or down, it's all the same. It doesn't matter. So it's clear. So what's wrong with muzara'a then? He says, قال محمد وبهذا نأخذ. This is we hold this. لا بأس بكرائها بالذهب والورق وبالحنطة كيلا معلوما وضربا معلوما. Right? ما لم يشترط ذلك مما يخرج منها. So he says there's nothing wrong with this. If you rent the land for cash, or in wheat, for example, this is wheat land, and you're renting wheat land, and you say I will give you X amount of wheat, not a percentage. I will give you X amount of wheat, right? كيلا معلوما, specific volume. وضربا معلوما, a specific type. ما لم يشترط ذلك مما يخرج منها, as long as you don't stipulate that the wheat that comes from this land. Why? What if no wheat comes from that land? Right? What if no wheat comes from that land? What if the muzari' doesn't work? Right? Anybody who's done business, you'll be in the situation like, dude, why am I'm letting this guy use my restaurant, but he's not actually working hard. I turn up I'm like, listen, I tell him how to do it. Like, you need to do a 12-hour shift, six days a week. That's how you're going to make money. The guy's working 6 days a week. Why am I giving you my property then? I gave you the property, use it. You didn't hire any staff. You tried to do it by yourself. You hired your little brother, right? So whenever you have this kind of, so the issue is it's circular, right? The money is coming from the same land that I'm giving to you. So it's circular, it's a problem. So the majority of scholars, they follow the outward purport of this hadith. The hadith forbids it and said it is haram. So it says, فَإِنِ اشْتَرَطَ مِمَّا يَخْرُجُ مِنْهَا كَيْلًا مَعْلُومًا فَلَا خَيْرَ فِيهِ. So it says, I'm going to give you a fixed portion, right? A fixed portion of that which comes from this land. You can't do it. Or a fixed amount from this land. You can't do that, right? And similarly, you can't do that in salam. You can't say, for example, hey, I want, I will pay you $10 for a basket of grapes from that tree. For X amount of grapes from that tree. You can't do that because maybe the tree won't exist. So the issue here is a gharar. Right? What is gharar is I don't know what we're agreeing on, or it's not necessarily deliverable. It's not normally deliverable. So you can't do those things. You can't do things that I don't know what we're agreeing on, A, or B, it's possibly not deliverable. So things have to be clear enough to be clear and open enough to be deliverable. Okay? And he said, وهو قول أبي حنيفة والعامة من فقهائنا. He said that's what the majority of the Kufans say. وقد سئل عن كرائها سعيد بن جبير, who is Mekki, right? So again, our Imam here, he knows what the Meccans are saying. Sa'id ibn Jubair, the Mufti of Mecca, he said قد سئل عن كرائها سعيد بن جبير بالحنطة كيلا معلوما فرخص في ذلك قال هل ذلك إلا مثل بيت يكرى. Right, it's fine as long as you stipulate it's fine. So the issue is either a percentage or a fixed amount from the land itself. Right, that's the issue. That's the position of the majority of scholars. Right, the position of the majority of scholars that it is not permissible. You cannot do that. Now the Hanbalis, if I remember correctly, and a number of Shafi'is, like Ibn Mundhir, like Ibn Khuzaymah, and I believe also Imam Nawawi, this is actually fine because there's other evidence that goes against him. You can do that. So yeah, we understand the logic. The logic is, yeah, you're kind of, it's circular. Like the money is coming from that thing itself, so it's kind of problematic. But there's other hadiths that allow it. Right, other hadiths that allow it. So he says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب عن سعيد المسيب, gap in the chain here, right? Sa'id Musayyib is a tabi'i, so there's a gap here. أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حين فتح خيبر, when he conquered Khaybar, قال لليهود أقركم ما أقركم الله على أن الثمر بيننا وبينكم. قال وكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يبعث عبد الله بن رواحة فيخرس, I believe with a كسرة, بينه وبينهم ثم يقول إن شئتم فلكم وإن شئتم فلي فقال فكانوا يأخذونه. So here there's a hadith to the opposite effect, that the Prophet ﷺ, when they conquered Khaybar, this is now our land. You did not agree to become Muslim, so you can keep it. Nor did you agree to do them to be a vassal state as dhimmis. So now we conquered you by war. So now this land is ours. But we can keep you on that land if you like, but we will basically rent it to you, right? On the condition that the produce of this land is 50-50 between us. So you're basically, it's not your land, but you're staying on that land, but you have to give us 50%. Okay? So this is exactly what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, is that you let somebody stay on a property and the condition is that they will give you X amount of that land. So this hadith contradicts the previous hadith, right? وكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يبعث عبد الله بن رواحة فيخرس, I believe with a kasra here. He would make an estimation to say these grapes will turn into this much dates. You know, these grapes will turn into these these fresh dates on the tree will turn into this much dried dates. These raisins are these grapes on the you know that are growing, they'll turn into this much raisins, and make an estimation like that. فكانوا يأخذونه, and they used to take that. وأخبرنا مالك أخبر شهاب عن سليمان مسار, and again the gap in the chain here, he's a tabi'i as well. أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يبعث عبد الله رواحة فيخرس, here we go ضمة, بينه وبين يهود, قال فجمعوا حليا من حلي نسائهم فقالوا هذا لك وخفف عنا وتجاوز في القسمة. فقال يا معشر يهود والله إنكم لمن أبغض خلق الله إلي وما ذلك بحاملي أن أحيف عليكم. أما الذي عرضتم من الرشوة فإنها سحت وإنا لا نأكلها. قالوا بهذا قامت السماوات والأرض. Right? So amazing hadith. So basically the other version is basically they tried to bribe Abdullah ibn Rawaha. They said, here, take this gold and, you know, don't take the agreement. right? Here's it's a gold for you, and you now you cannot do this. So he said, O people, O Jews, he says, I swear by Allah, wallahi, you are indeed of the most hated of creation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that's not going to make me abuse you. As for that which you have offered me of rashwa, he has rashwa, of bribery, فإنها سحت, there's ill-gotten gains. وإنا لا نأكلها. We, I'm not like you, we don't take ill-gotten gains. And they said, that's how the heavens and the earth still remain. Isn't that ajib? So the Jews told Abdullah ibn Rawaha, because you don't take bribery, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps the heavens and the earth going. Because there are people that are believers. So they knew that the believers are right, and they knew that through the righteousness of righteous people, Allah keeps the heavens and the earth going. But they still tried to break it. Isn't that amazing? It's like a sorcerer, right? A sorcerer or a witch or a warlock who understands that as long as you are nice to people in your family, your house will not fall down on you. Okay? But they still want you to do that. They keep just telling you, don't be nice to them. Otherwise, the magic won't work. So it's like, you know the system, but you don't accept it. Right? May Allah protect us from being like that. Ajib. قال محمد بهذا نأخذ لا بأس بمعاملة النخل على الشطر والثلث والربع بمزارة الأرض البيضاء على الشطر والثلث والربع وكان أبو حنيفة يكره ذلك ويذكر أن ذلك هو المخابرة التي نهى عنها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So Imam Muhammad, he is also of the position of this minority. He said it's fine. You can do that. Give somebody date palms, land, الأرض البيضاء means there's nothing there, right? It's open. And say, here, give me a quarter, give me a third, give me whatever it is, right? And he says, Imam Abu Hanifa. So he went against his teacher. Imam Abu Hanifa went against the teacher, and he followed the minority opinion that you can do that. I.e., because why? Yes, the principle in fiqh is that would be gharar, and the Prophet forbade it in one hadith, but the other hadiths allow it. So, right? So the issue is, which hadith do we go with? And he goes with the second hadith. And again, this is the ikhtiyar of, I believe, Ibn Mundhir, Ibn Khuzaymah, and I believe Imam an-Nawawi as well. But it is not the Shafi'i school. The Shafi'i school is you cannot do that. Right? You cannot give people land and have them work on it for, a percentage, and they give you a percentage of the crops. You can't do that in the Shafi'i school. Allahu a'lam. Make sense, guys? Inshallah?
Was that only in the context of not only in the context of gold silver? It's like, okay, if I let them use a resource and I expect to fix them out of what that resource produces, or anything that resource produces specifically,
Yeah, so the point is
then the majority is that it's not
giving a use of things. So like, hey, take my restaurant. Hey, can you just like let me use a room in your office? Give me office space, for example. Give me office space and I'll give you X amount. You can't do that.
okay. But the minorities that you can.
Minority.
Okay.
So even with that, I don't know what kind of stipulations they're going to put that, like let me use your office space and those kind of things. But let's say, for example, I let me use you. You have you like I can do manual labor. I just have tools. So like, hey, give me
Right.
let me use your truck plus your these heavy tools, whatever, and I'll give you, for example, 50% of whatever I get. You know, so the issue is it's circular. So you want to rent these tools from me? Fine. You want to give me like I'll give you X amount of bricks? Fine. You can do that, but the issue is when it's circular, meaning I'm going to give you these things and I want 10% of what you earn from those things. That's circular. Maybe you don't work. Maybe those things will not, it's problematic for majority of scholars, right? And this is totally analogous to the issue of, again, in Salam. Salam is a forward sale, right? So you're selling, for example, socks online, okay? And it says socks made by this guy in this factory in China. How do you know that? It's like I can order Nike socks size large, okay? White Nike socks size large. That's fine. But you can't say Nike socks size large from this factory in this province in China, made by with the hands of this particular worker. What if the guy's not working tomorrow? You can't do that. So it's too specific to be deliverable. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So if I'm selling like right in my hand right now, I have a used remote for an AC. So I can sell this remote right now because I can guarantee like the one I have in my hand right now, take a picture of it, say, hey, I'm selling this to you right now. Okay. But if you're doing a forward sale, meaning I need, for example, 50 Jung, whatever it is, Chung Hop, manual things that are useful, that can be universal AC remotes that will work for this. Here's a specification. It has to be specific enough to be known and generic enough to be deliverable. Like you can have like Spanish olives, but you can't have olives from this particular tree in Spain because what if the tree doesn't exist tomorrow? You get me?
But that's before, like, if you harvested it and said these are from, that's just the description of
That's
the product at
different.
that point,
That's
I
different.
guess.
So
Yeah,
now
that's
I've
different.
harvested them. I've harvested them. I have them in my hand right now. I said,
Yeah. Okay.
look,
Okay.
Habibi, these olives are from my grandma's tree. That's fine. But I can't order olives from your grandma's tree because maybe the tree won't exist tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
Right? So this is this concept of gharar. Gharar is it's like vagueness in terms of what it is, and vagueness in terms of is that even deliverable, right? Like, yeah, I'm ordering a unicorn. What's wrong with that? Like, I want a unicorn. I want it to be this color. Like, bro, Habibi, unicorns don't exist. Say, well, I want to buy it. I'll give you $1 trillion for a unicorn. It's haram. You can't do that. You cannot order a unicorn. It doesn't exist. Right? Hey, I'll sell you my stolen car. Okay, but what? It's like, bro, like, yeah, it's a super nice car, but it's stolen. So you have no ability to get it to you. So it's kind of gambling now, right? Like, so you know what it is, you just don't know if you can get it or not. So you're gonna pay a tenth of the price. Like, yeah, I'll do it. It's a gamble. You're not allowed to do that, right? You're not allowed to do things like that because it's vague, right? So that's the whole issue with insurance. Like, hey, I am willing to pay that much money. Like I'm paying what was I paying? Like $13, right? $13 a month in California for renters insurance. Like, yeah, I'll do it. Because if I could be sued for like 2 million, who cares? I'll do it, right? So like I'm willing to waste this money because I could make that much money, right? Like I'm playing this game. The Sharia doesn't allow you to play those games. You can't do that. You're not allowed to risk things, right? Obviously, insurance, you're forced to do it. That's something else. But I'm just saying the concept, like willingly, like for my own, like you offered me this thing where I don't know what's going on, but I'm cool with it. Like, hey, I'll buy anything. Just give me anything, right? I'll buy anything from your store. You're not allowed to buy anything from your store. It has to be specific enough so you know what it is. And it has to be vague enough to be deliverable. But if it's too specific and not deliverable, you can't do that. Okay, inshallah, I'm going to stop here. Reminds me of a guy who, yeah. So the Prophet said, "La tabi' ma laysa indak." Don't sell what you don't have. Do you have the Eiffel Tower? Can you show me the title deed? You don't have it. So why are you selling it? Right. So what they're saying is basically, I'll sell it to you, and if I get hold of it, I'll give it to you. Right? You can't do that. Right? You can't do that. And again, you deal with business, you will see the issues that come up there. Right? You will see the issues that come up. Like, bro, that thing is, like even like for example, software, right? You're selling software to a company, right? And it's like, um, how generic is that? Or is that super specific? So that's very specific. You have no ability, you don't even know that's going to be deliverable. Like it's like you're really risking it as a business. Forget Sharia, right? As a business, like how deliverable is that? Like, this happens all the time in like, selling technology. The team goes out and sells stuff, right? And is marketing things that is kind of only like 80% developed. And so it has to be generic enough or realistic enough that that is pretty much deliverable, right? Like we haven't finished the things on it, but like, you buy it up, we'll set up the specifics for you, but it's pretty much there. As opposed to you have no like, here's my, I'm going to sell you the first commercial electric airplane. Like what? Well, no, not an airplane, spaceship, right? This, I've worked all the math out. I can do like this is going to be the commercial spaceships that just electric. You charge it in your garage, and that's it. You go to the moon. It's like Habibi, look, you're gonna have to do a lot more research and find out how deliverable that is before you start selling it. Right? You don't have to make the thing for me, but you have to have made a few of them so that yeah, that's deliverable. You cannot sell something that is just not deliverable. Right? Khair, inshallah. I gotta stop talking. Inshallah.
Can I,
Yeah, go ahead, Bismillah.
well, really quickly, because this actually sounds similar to, I remember a while ago last year, someone posed a question about like the AAA membership, the car service. So Sheikh Ahmad already basically mentioned that membership would not be valid contract, citing gharar, like you're paying a fixed amount for a benefit that's not existing based on conditional on future events. And then someone said, okay, but what about like a membership agreement similar to like a gym? You may not use your gym membership, but you're paying for it.
Yeah,
Is there
so
a
so
distinction
in the
between,
Shafi
yeah,
school, we're quite strict on gharar, right? We're pretty strict. So you can imagine,
right?
like, if you put that question AAA in my Shafi quick Q&A right now, I'll be like, either I wouldn't answer it or it says haram. Okay, now that's because we're quite strict. But with something like AAA and even Amazon Prime, right, and other things like that, the normal way that we do it is we would say, is there something that is primary and something that is secondary in this contract? Okay, so AAA, for example, like AAA, they say we will pick you up 5 times in this year with this distance. Okay, so that it's not
Mhm.
vague. They didn't say, oh, well, it's just how whenever they didn't say whenever. They said 5 times. You have up to 5 times, right? So you can call us up 5 times and we will pick you up. If you're on this thing, we will pick you up to 500 miles. If you're on this thing, it's up to 100 miles. Otherwise, you have to pay for it. So you understand, like this, it's a bit like hiring a guard, right? The guard never
Right.
did anything. Nobody ever tried to break in, ever. He sat there for 5 years. He never saw a single soul on that island. He would turn up, stand there for 2 weeks, and there's not a single person there, right? After all of that training, nothing happened. But the point is, he provided the service. He stood there for this time, did this time, he did this and this, khalas, right? So now
Mhm.
with AAA, so we basically said, is there something that is clear and then something else that is extra? So with AAA, for example, there's a membership, and then the membership allows you to have the insurance. Okay, so basically with something like AAA, Allahu Alam, it is a service that I'm paying for. I might never use that service ever, right? But there are certain services that they'll do. For example, they'll do things like they say, if they'll define certain services. Okay, so and then there are other things. So then it allows you to get the insurance. And again, because you're forced to get the insurance, you're not allowed to not have insurance. Now that's halal, right? That's something else. So with AAA, wallahu alam, it is a service. Same thing with like Amazon Prime, right? But we shouldn't have Amazon anyway, but because of who they support. But anyway, you have Amazon Prime. Like, what do they give you? Do they give you TV? Yeah. Do they give you? So the problem with Amazon Prime is things like, oh, if you have Amazon Prime, you can buy it for this price. But if you don't have Amazon Prime, you can't buy it for that price. Oh, so that's not a sale. You can't say, hey, if you sign up for Sheikh Farid Dingle membership, you will have the ability to sign up for a class. What if you don't want to sign up for a class? So the ability to sign up for a class is not a user product that can be sold. That's not a service that can be sold. So you can't sell that. But if that's one of many, that's something different. So, for example, we're going to say, listen, we will give you access to these. So, Amazon Prime will give you access to these free videos, this music, these things. Plus, you'll also get free next day delivery on these items, right? So, I don't know if I'm going to order, but in general, you've given me something that there is a thing that I'm buying, right? And you've just given me add-ons. Does that make sense?
So the issue lies in if the service itself gives you access to like a different
Yes, yeah. So for
agreement or a
example,
different rate. Okay.
I'm going to give you, for example, gym access plus 10% off one-on-one sessions, right? So you can't pay for 10% off one-on-one sessions. Like that's all it is. Like the gym membership means that if you have membership, you get 20% off one-on-one sessions. Well, maybe I don't want a one-on-one session. So that's not a
Ah,
thing.
okay. Yeah.
But you said, I'm giving you access to the gym. Here we go. You can access from this time to this time. These are the things you can use. Okay, khalas, that's called rental. Plus, you get 10% off if you decide to do one-on-one sessions. You get just 10%. Plus, we will also give you free access whenever there's somebody giving a presentation. Again, that's vague. We will let you come in for free, even though it's normally $20 each. Like, oh, great. These are, so you gave me all these extras that were vague, but you did give me something concrete, right?
They
That's
were
like
secondary, so it's not.
the secondary. And the principle of fiqh is يغتفر في التابع ما لا يغتفر في المتبوع. Things are overlooked that are secondary that are not overlooked that are primary, right? So, they give an example of that is like, um, when I'm buying gold from you, okay, there has to be taqabud. You have to give me it immediately, right? I'm giving you the cash, you've got to give me the gold, right? I can't buy it online, I can't order it, I've got to buy it from you right now. So I say, what about this, Salah? I say, Salah, I want you to go and buy me a bag, okay? And when you bought me the bag, take a picture of it. You go and buy me the bag, okay? I say, that's my bag, right? So yeah, Habibi, I want you to sell me a piece of gold and put the gold in the bag. So you've given it to me through the bag. You get that? Like you couldn't sell me gold when you're in America and I'm here, right? But by putting the gold into my bag, it now shifted from your liability to my liability. If the bag got stolen, I've lost my gold, right? So it shifted to my property. So if the normal way of exchanging gold like that would be haram. But I did it in another way. I did it where I created a kind of like a proxy of myself in your house, and so that's different. So so things are overlooked. So that same contract, if the bag wasn't there, would be haram. But the contract now is that's secondary. The fact that the bag is now with you is different, right? There's a different kind of thing, right? A woman cannot marry off a woman, but a woman could sell a woman. So here's a lady, she owns a female slave. She sells the female slave to you. Okay, so if you own a female slave, couldn't you have a child? Yeah, you could have a child. It's like, okay, so you can have a child. So what's the difference? Like if you married, she can't marry her female slave to you, but she could do something that's greater than that, which is sell the woman to you. Yeah, because that's secondary, right? So like in order for her to marry her female slave to you, she would have to appoint one of her male family members to marry that woman to you. But now she's doing something even greater, which is selling the woman to you, which allows you to use the woman for work and she can come and clean your house and she can teach your kid, do whatever she wants. And you could also have children with her. So how is that possible? Because it's secondary, right? It's a secondary thing. It's not a primary thing. That's not, so it was overlooked as a secondary thing. That's not that if that was originally sought of through marriage, it wouldn't be valid. Does that make sense? So these kind of things happen quite a lot, particularly in financial transactions. Like, what is the primary purpose of this thing? X. Oh, so then secondarily you can do other things. Even muzara'a, right? Muzara'a we can do in the Shafi school as a secondary thing in a musaqa contract. So musaqa contract is something different, which is to date palms, specific to date palms, that you can give date palms specifically and have that person not plant the date palms, but look after the date palms. And then you can get a percentage of the dates. And if there's space in between the date palms, they can also plant some other things as well. So notice they can do, so we say muzara'a is haram, but you could do muzara'a as a secondary thing, it's fine. Because it's like they have some space in between, so like why not? You're putting water there anyway, it's a problem. Does that make sense? So generally in financial
Yeah.
transactions, in fiqh in general, and in financial transactions, when something is secondary, we don't look at it in the same way. Like if I similarly, I hire you, and I'm just going to pay you. I'm going to pay you, for example, an unknown figure. You can't do that. Okay, well, how about I hire you for a not very good salary, but you can get up to 40% of sales. Like, oh, yeah, man, I'm gonna do that. So it's vague, right? Like you don't even know what's going on, but it's secondary. I am paying you an X amount. Like you're working 9 to 5, selling mobile phones in my shop. And here's your salary. It's not a very good salary, but it's a salary. Clear. I know what I'm giving you, you know what you're giving me. And on the side, I'm giving a bonus of 40% of sales. You can do that. Even
But if it
though
was strictly commission based, that wouldn't be.
if it was strictly commission based, that's all something else. But by default, you can't do both. I can't say I'm
Right.
hiring you to do this. So when something is purely secondary, it's fine. But you can't say, for example, at least this. I'm going to give you, like, you can't do commission based when I give you the minimum of this. Does it make sense? Like I'm paying you, I'm hiring you purely commission based, but the least you can get is this. You can't do that.
Right.
Do you see like the verbiage there, like commission based, but the minimum is you're going to get this amount. Okay, that's haram. As opposed to I'm going to hire you, but hey, you can get a bonus as well. Can you see it? Like one is now second.
Yeah, because one is not guaranteed. Yeah,
Exactly. So
okay,
it's kind of
okay.
like sometimes like well, you see like you're standing like one hair of the of this line. You go one side of it, it's like it's totally fine. The other side of it's like totally haram, right? But it's just so the point is going back to the point is things are secondary. So if you look at the contract and it's vague to begin with. So let's say futures, right? Futures are totally vague. So that's a problem. Like it's like a right to buy something or right to sell something. It's like that. What is that? As opposed to, again, I'm signing up for the gym. You gave me extra perks, and they will come kind of vague. That's fine. I'm signing up. I'm AAA. Like you're giving me a service, right? So there's a difference between I will pick you up from if you get that you need to get picked up, I'll pick you up to 5 times, and these things that's fine, right? As opposed to, hey, I don't even know how many times you're doing that, right? So insurance proper, what AAA does, that's haram and un-Islamic, right? Life insurance, you're not forced to do it, and it's totally vague, right? So you can't do that. Like you die tomorrow, and you get whatever 500,000 for your kids, like what, you know, you faked your death or whatever it was, It's like it's gambling, right? They lost money on you big time. And so they play a gamble, you're gambling as well, they're gambling. It's haram, you can't do that. As opposed to the normal AAA membership itself, by default, it does have clear things. So again, the caveat is that in the Shafi school, we are pretty sensitive. So like when you say like, oh, oftentimes you'll be like, oh, we add that one vague variable to it. Often the Shafis are going to be very strict. Like we don't. My daughter's coming here, tapping her wrist, saying, "Time, daddy." Vague time, right?
Yeah.
And now she's doing air punches. Okay, it's getting violent now. Um, um,
Jazakallah.
the Shafis were quite strict because the other schools, what they do is they will look at. They're much more interested. They're much more. What's it called? They're much more accommodating with market need. Like, hey, people need to do this kind of stuff. It's kind of hard. Whereas the Shafi'is, by default, we stick to the qiyas, meaning to the principles. So you will see that the Shafi'is, by default, we follow to the normal situation, and they do the exception a bit more, particularly in financial issues. Yeah. So, so again, if you ask me about AAA, I'm like, gonna have to sit back and think about it as a Shafi answer, right? But otherwise, it's fine, inshallah.
Right.
Inshallah, khair. It's almost 10 past midnight for you. Inshallah, we'll call it quits here, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.